Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we got a big one, the newest project from Kacey Musgraves, Deeper Well. Look, I think I've finally made peace with the reality that Kacey Musgraves is not going to make the kind of music that first won me over on her anymore. I mean, I fell for the clever, textured, sweet, but often biting country songstress of Same Trailer, Different Park. And yet, since 2018's Golden Hour won her all the critical acclaim, and more notably, she started only working with Ian Fitchuk and Daniel Tajin on production, look, she's nowhere close to that headspace. And you know what? That's fine. For an album that's all about recentering oneself, rediscovering one's capacity for love and contentment after 2021's Starcrossed had its moments, but ultimately felt a little misaligned. To be charitable, this feels like a step in the right direction. At least one where she feels a little better about herself and she sounds a bit more engaged, especially in and around production, which right from the jump has nowhere near as many awkward misfires this time around, especially in the vocal mixing, despite having a lot of the same technical crew behind it. So thus, we get a very mellow, mid-tempo, pop country release, soft focus, lower stakes, and generally organic, but with the occasional better blended touch of synth or drum machine that doesn't feel that out of place, with the occasional dabbling in reverbed folk music, hi Sean Everett, to add some variance to the song structure with more minor key change-ups, like the slight gallop that comes on Jade Green, or the haunted opener Cardinal that oddly gives me Sweater Wetter vibes. So okay, it's perfectly primed for those who are quasi-spiritual, pleasant, they like being in nature, although you know deep down there might be more interesting topics to be discussed in this space, maybe even a more interesting conversation on how some specific veins of quasi-mystical self-care can be and indeed have been commodified into self-absorbed branding, but you're a little bit too polite to really prod at them, especially as Kacey Musgraves has one of the sweetest, most earnest voices working in this subgenre today. But her appeal on her earlier projects went beyond just playing for these vibes, and it's the reason why I still feel a little distant here. Even if accepting that any societal commentary or darker introspection isn't really remotely in the picture, there is a frustrating lack of specific detail that's stuck on for the past couple albums with Musgraves. She can really paint a pretty picture in a lot of striking colors, but I'm just not getting the same depth, and I'm sure some of that came with the dramatic contrast that came between her sweetness and the more biting lines. Now that's not saying there isn't a compelling emotional dynamic. The arc of self-care and relearning one's vulnerability, that's got some weight. The grief that comes with some endings like on Cardinal and Moving On, finding the ability to relax and go with the flow without getting high all the time like on the gentle rollicking Sway, that worked for me. Then the couple passing shots at how money and success doesn't really buy happiness or true companionship. Although I do kinda question the choice to interpolate Jid for Lonely Millionaire, because it reminds me of his own commentary on the subject on the Forever Story that was way more nuanced. Or, you know, how Kacey Musgraves herself used to hit a lot harder, especially on her first two albums. And by this point, this soft-spoken brand of misty pop country folk, it's far from new, even in the mainstream. I've seen a lot of comparisons both sonically and thematically, like to Hayley Williams' Petals for Armor back in 2020, but the one that really springs to mind, it's not even in that genre. It's Chilombo by Jhené Aiko, which features a very similar sweet, dreamlike, quasi-mystical art of healing and discovering the capacity to love again. But there was this weighty gravitas to the framing and the dramatic arc that found a deeper, world-weary wisdom that felt a little bit more grounded that this album isn't quite hitting. And I know Kacey Musgraves can. And thus, it's a little ironic that the poppiest and easily most twee song here, it's actually one of my favorites, Anime Eyes, which should be so ridiculous with the quasi-robotic vocal layering and the on-the-nose anime references and the off-kilter bridge breakdown, but it is a moment where the poise is less refined and Musgraves really comes alive. I'd probably love this album if it had some of those more idiosyncratic but genuinely sincere moments. So thus as it is, yeah, I know, it's better than Starcrossed. I can argue it's a return to form, especially as Kacey Musgraves' floor of quality is so high for me. It feels very sincere and sweet. It's an easy listen that's kind of hard for me not getting caught up in the charm. But this album is also so deep in her comfort zone that it's hard not to be reminded of all the potential she showcased before, especially in the writing. And also especially when this project isn't all that hook-driven, it wants to luxuriate in the vibes in the open space. Now look, look, it's not like there's any shortage of women in this space who can absolutely deliver that sweetness alongside darkness and dramatic contrast, especially in indie country. If you like Kacey Musgraves, you can absolutely check them out. Emily Scott Robinson, Carolyn Spence, Kara Jackson, Courtney Marie Andrews, Michaela Ann, Karen Jonas. I could easily keep going, but if you're looking for a very pleasant vibe that might just be the healing you need, look, I'm willing to meet this very good album where it is, but if this is the first Deeper Well, I don't know. I think we could probably keep digging. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, and subscribe. I know for longtime Kacey Musgraves fans, I might be in a contentious spot here. I really want to love this. It's not quite there yet for me. And part of this is the depressing feeling that she's not in the same headspace when she and all her collaborators put together same trailer, different park. I've accepted that. It's just hard to emotionally get past it. But hey, leave your comments down there. I'm curious where y'all fall. Beyond that, though, anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you all want to get albums on my schedule going forward, or hell, just argue with me on my Discord or support the channel, link to my Patreon right over there. Don't feel obligated, tough times, I understand, but the option's available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.